Meeting of the Waterworks and Lighting Commission to order for Wednesday, January 8th. We'll start with introductions. Jim is an excused absence today. I'm John Harper, chairperson.
Joe Kazicki, Commissioner.
Tom Novak, Commissioner.
John Bergen, Commissioner.
Mike Phillips, Commissioner.
Jeff Kuhn, Finance Director.
Todd Weiler, Engineering.
Joel Matthews, Office Manager.
Matt Storman, Information Systems Administrator.
Dale Schuman, Water Superintendent.
Walt Seabrook, Line Superintendent.
Jay O'Keefe, Maintenance.
Mike Zerflu, ratepayer and landlord.
Chris Sawicki, Safety Coordinator.
Okay, Gordon.
Gordon Gutby, the landlord.
Okay.
Roxanne Gronsky.
Okay, thank you. During the public comment portion, please keep in mind that this is a business meeting of the Waterworks and Lighting Commission and not a public hearing. Persons who wish to address the commission may do so, but should not expect any discussion at this time or expect commissioners or employees to answer any specific questions during the public comment period. Individuals will be allowed to speak in order in which they have signed up. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per individual. And we'll start out with Gordon.
Yeah, I was just curious why it is Wisconsin Rapids can't collect on water sewer bills except in the summertime. I have a rental in Nakusa. They send them a disconnect notice, it's paid. The bill or the disconnect notice went out in December. A little town like Nakusa can take care of it. I don't know why Rapids couldn't.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just make a comment there?
Sure.
That's entirely false. We collect on it all year round.
Mike?
Again, I would like to make a comment on, I don't understand why Water and Light cannot, I know by the law, they can disconnect when they're 1 penny past due. I don't know why we can't make a policy, treat everybody fairly. When, John, for example, if your bill is, to me, if you're 1 cent past due, after 20 days, you give a notice. If it's due on the 1st of the month, I don't care what the due date is, automatically the computer would spit out a letter on the day after it's due. So let's say it's the 2nd of the month, and a 20-day notice goes to John Harper that you're past due and you're on the disconnect list. And then you just put it on the list in the order that the people go, not by the amount. And then after 20 days, when you guys, obviously you had brutal cold weather, better things to deal with than disconnects the last couple days. But when you're caught up, then start disconnecting people. They will pay. The majority of the people take advantage of the system. This is a policy that you guys can do. All you got to do is, that's my other question. I've been coming to these meetings for over a year, and I guess I ask questions. It's a little frustrating I cannot get answers. I appreciate the right to speak, but it'd certainly be nice to be able to get some answers. Maybe you guys go to other meetings of this, but to me, it appears, and I'm sorry if I'm offending you, that's not my goal, but it appears to me it's just rubber stamping stuff. Everything I've seen has always been a few questions, some positive comments, but it's mostly approve, approve, approve. I'm not quite sure what your guys' position is, and I don't know when I can get some answers on that. I'm not trying to offend anybody. This is just good business to disconnect people when they do that. Nobody else would run their business that way. I understand you guys have some limitations with the electric part of it, that you can't disconnect them during cold weather, but water, you guys can disconnect anytime, and when they're 1 penny past due. And I think that's a reasonable request. I know Joel will tell you, well, we do a lot better in other places. I don't care about other places. I care about Wisconsin Rapids, and I don't think it's unreasonable to start disconnecting these people. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Mike. Any other public comments? Anybody that didn't fill out a sheet? Okay, then we're looking for a motion for approval, additions, or corrections to the agenda as mailed.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion been made and seconded to approve the agenda All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval, additions, or corrections to the following meeting minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the regular commission meeting held December 11th. All those in favor?
I have a question.
Opposed? Yes, Mike.
Did we have something with those, minutes that we were holding on to because we didn't have a quorum? Nope,
That was,
I don't think so. Okay,
no,
okay, fine.
this is for the regular meeting.
Okay,
Yeah,
we're
we're making a
special
motion.
meeting, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We do have one action item for the utility tractor quotes.
Utility went out for a quote on a utility tractor we use for various different duties. It's a smaller unit than what we have for digging holes and so forth, so it's a really handy unit. Repairing yards, hauling smoke from hydrants, controlling brush on any power lines and stuff like that. So we have quotes here from Central Wisconsin for Power Pack, Chili Implement, and Service Motor. And Chad has made the recommendation to go with Power Pack, and he's here if you have any questions pertaining to the unit itself, he'd be willing to answer for you.
Yeah, the question I have, all four of these quoted on the 3000 series John Deere?
No, they were not. The only two dealers that are actually John Deere dealers are Central Wisconsin Co-op and Powerback. Chili Implement and Service Motors quoted a Kubota. That picture was just for reference.
And the other two, Chili and Service Motor, both quoted a Kubota?
Yes, they are also a case in, well, Chili Implement's a Cub Cadet dealer also. They only opted to quote a Kubota.
What equipment are we getting with it, Chad?
It's going to be a rotary cutter, more for brush, the heavier stuff that's out there underneath the power lines right now, and a box grader for yard repairs. Our pole yard has a gravel driveway for grading, such things like that. Keep landscaping.
Yes, Mike.
Just a question, what is the cost of this? I wasn't able to hear that.
The cost of what they've Chad asked for is $36,761.
Isn't this,
And that's the lowest bid.
isn't this something the city has? I mean, you guys, are a separate entity. I don't know if you consider that you're part of the city or what, but I would think the city has, unless you're gonna use this equipment on a regular basis, to me, I gotta believe the city, the mayor is here, but we're duplicating a piece of equipment that we think the city could perform and save the ratepayers $36,000. I mean, if it's something you're gonna use daily or weekly, I certainly understand that, but if it's just gonna be used here and there, I gotta believe I see the city crews around with a lot of different equipment on a regular basis, and I'm just curious if the city could do the job for you.
The city does have one the same size, which is used tremendously by the city, so to acquire that unit when we need it, and with the attachments that we want to get with it, you're going to be waiting in line and never get your stuff taken care of.
So this is more for emergency situations?
Well, it's for-
This is going to be used every day.
Oh, okay,
We
that
could-
makes sense if it's gonna be used. I'm just questioning.
We will use this a lot.
Okay.
What's the anticipated years of service then, Chad, do you know?
Without ever having one, I mean, we have nothing really compared to. They last, the unit should go for many years.
I would also, just looking at capital improvements and replacement of equipment.
I don't see this going in, 7 years minimum.
Okay.
I'd say 7 to 10, no problem.
And then how do the warranties compare?
Everything's manufactured, they're all standard. Everybody was the same.
Okay. And then, I know we do a lot of in-house service work. Where would we go for service? if
I-
we can't do it
the-
in-house?
Well, if we do go with Power Pack, any warranty, you know, anything I can't do here, I mean, if it's warranty,
You'll want them to do it
yes,
anyway?
yes. And parts will come from them also, but
Okay,
as far as anything else, I take care of in-house.
okay. And then is there any operator training that's required?
We have,
You've got similar equipment. but
exactly,
I just want
there's,
to make sure that any new features, things like that,
usually what happens if we buy a piece of equipment, they'll come in, set it up for us, you know, they'll go over it. We have, obviously get operator manuals, and it's very simple.
okay, very good, thank you. Any other questions?
I'd like to know what the total dealerships involved, how many did you contact?
4,
Just these 4?
yes.
Any reason why it was just these 4? I mean,
Just the surrounding area, as local as we could go.
okay.
Okay, if there's no further questions, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the quote from Power Pack Incorporated.
I'll second it. Motion's been made by Tom, seconded by John, to approve the quote from Power Pack for $36,761.38. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Kurt isn't here, I don't know, and Jim isn't here. Does anyone else on staff know if there's anything to update on Focus on Energy? Great Lakes Utilities. Okay, then the department reports and updates. The safety committee.
You know, on the way we hold gas cylinders in place, how does that happen right now in the,
Currently, they're up against the wall, and you should have a chain around to secure them to the wall so they don't tip over. Unfortunately, over time, we've required some extra bottles and so forth that need to be weeded out, that are either obsolete or no longer in need, and are going to be really cluttersome sitting behind the truck where they're at now. So we need to put them in a spot where they're accessible and not in a position to tip them over and shoot them across the floor or whatever.
so you're gonna get them away from the wall?
Or be next to the wall but at a safer spot and contained properly so you don't have a chance of tipping over and causing injury or damage.
Yeah, I know I've seen where they have strapping, where it makes an angle and, you know, they're like tied together with 2 pieces, so you can, actually, I know sometimes chain isn't the best way to.
And you see, we're looking at something too that is more accountability, so we know which ones are full, which ones are empty. So you don't have to try searching through a whole bunch more around to try and find the one you're gonna need, because we have 3 or 4 different gases that we use. So it's gonna be a better accountability also.
Sure, good idea.
Did you have a chance to check into the defibrillators then, Dale?
I
Put a note on
did a little bit of checking, but I haven't had a lot of time to do that yet. I think the range was $2,000 a piece, depending on what kind of unit you look at. If you decide to go further with that, that would be probably keep it similar to what we already have.
Right, okay. And Chris, I know you're still getting up to speed, but the previous safety coordinator provided a monthly report, so once you get up online, it would be nice to get some updates on you, on what your plans are for this year.
Yeah, absolutely, I'll get that out.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I got a comment. Under that topic for December, Dale, now, this is not a complaint, but I came through winter weather years ago, and the one thing that we were told not to do is to layer. And I know I see it on TV, and they constantly talk about layering. Of course, we didn't have the kind of clothes you got nowadays. But I know, for instance, I was on a job where we had to make a right-of-way before we could build the towers. And it was cold. And you know what I ended up using for footwear was a pair, first of all, I put on one pair of socks, cotton socks. Don't layer that, just one pair. Then I put on a pair of slippers and a pair of boots about 4 sizes too big. I never got cold. It was just,
Yeah, the big thing about layering that they stress nowadays, if you layer it, as you work and you're warm, you can take a layer off and still have a proper coverage, and keeps it sweating away from you, because once you get sweat and wet, then you're cold all the way through it and stuff. So that's the idea behind layering, that you can take off one layer or 2 layers, still stay adequately covered, and not have perspiration be an issue with freezing once you get cold and wet that way. So that's why they stress layers.
now you can see why I feel like a dinosaur sometimes. Things have changed. And one thing too that it says rotating to a warm environment. We are warned, don't, you know, when you're out there in the cold, don't get too warm and then go back out, you know.
Yeah, sometimes you need to just plain warm up to avoid frostbite and stuff for the places that are exposed.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, no complaint. I think
That's fine.
times have changed, but I know what it was like years ago.
Any other questions or comments? The line superintendent report. Could you give us an update on the inventory of the storeroom, if that's completed or?
The storeroom is completed, and the guys are working on the last of the wiring side about to build all the outside material, all the inventory, from the pole yard and anything that we have out in the yard. So we're just basically down to the north wall on the front.
Okay, good. And then, could you give us an update on the project for Highway 1373?
Yeah, we've only got about 3 or 4 lighting arresters yet that need to be in place, and that work will be completed. But due to the weather conditions, we thought best if we tried to keep the crews in.
Sure.
And those same crews are also participating. Broke both crews up to do inventory this year, so
Okay, good.
we'll be trying to get it done in a more timely manner.
Sure. Okay, good, thank you. Mike,
Questions?
do you have a question? Yeah.
I guess my question is the word that you've got in there, maybe we should cross it out. You got under pole fire, bad combination. Now, that doesn't mean that the lineman did a bad combination, does it? Okay.
No, that combination, the fuse itself, it's a matter of issues over the years with the porcelain. Sometimes cold weather, or we could have gotten a strike from hail or anything like that. They have a tendency to crack, and then eventually, of course, that tracks. And next thing you know, we've got a pole ignited.
Well, you get that part, then you got underneath the bottom one, part power, bad service connection, there again.
Yeah, no, generally where we run into problems with that, before we started getting the hydraulic or the battery operated crimp-on material, we were using always a hand press. And
Right.
sometimes we go out of tune in that. And generally, most of the bad service connections we get are servants, where they're just little barrel sleeves. And what happens is sometimes with you get thawing and freezing, and if water happens to get into those connections, the expansion and the contraction of that, and eventually the connection will go
But
bad.
that doesn't mean they did a bad job.
No, it does not mean they did a bad
Maybe we can
job.
skip that word. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? We'll go on to the water department report.
I noticed you did a lot of meter testing. And is that something that's always done at the end of the year, or? Just when you have a bunch of them laying in the corner, you start
That's
going
basically, you
through.
get to do some other things, water going on, you can kind of push to the corner, and then you kind of catch up and take care of it.
And when you test them, do they have to meet a standard?
Right, they have to be within a certain perimeter of
Okay.
high and low flow, so it's all preset.
These,
Go ahead, I'm done.
Excuse me. The water main breaks, are these problem areas?
Not really. I mean, it seems like every year, it's the water main breaks. Some years are on the east side, sometimes on the west. This year it's been kind of more on the west side than it is the east side. Just depends on where the ground decides to shift and snap the pipe.
But there's not something here that should be planned for?
Well, we actually look into that every year when we plan our future water pipe replacement jobs. We try to hit the areas that are having a lot of issues and take care of them, as well as other issues that the city's working on that we can piggyback with and replace old water main while we're doing street reconstruction. So we are always working with them to try and accomplish that.
yes, Mayor.
Yes, I've got a question. It kind of relates back to the line superintendent on the electrical side too, both in just the disruption and the breaks. Typically, when I hear about it, it's when some sort of news or media outlets reported it, and as well as commissioners when they get a call, I'm sure. Is there any way to acknowledge the disruption and to the extent of it? And do some sort of, I know on your phone you have a message recording that says you've acknowledged it. Is there any other plans to do any other notification?
Actually, Matt and I talked about this after the outage on
Monday, yeah.
And I'm going to be able to tweet in. You can put 140 characters onto it, and that'll automatically go to our website.
Okay, perfect. It'd just be nice to know to what extent the damage, and then make sure that obviously you guys know about it, but a lot of people don't know that you notified, so thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I got one more question.
Okay.
I looked at the paper there this morning about the backhoe that froze up. I know it was cold in that, but did we get stuck with the wrong hydraulic oil, or is it just?
No, what happened was the fuel started to wax and gel up. And it was actually sitting there idling while we were shutting off some more valves, whatever. And the fuel is treated when we get it, but apparently it wasn't treated maybe heavy enough or something that it started gelling up. So we towed it into the city garage, and Chad came over, we changed the filters, added a little more additive to it, and topped it off and got it running again. And then once it was working, it was hot. So it kept the fuel warm, and we didn't have no more issues throughout the day, so.
So you solved your own problem right away?
Right, normally the fuel is treated, but it wasn't quite treated strong enough for that temperature drop, so.
I know we used to run into that years ago in diesel trucks, that they gel up in the wintertime.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Office managers report.
Joel, on your first paragraph about the December accounts receivable, you're talking about how the sales increased 3.5% in November, and the 30, 60, and 90-day numbers as the December sales work their way through the aging schedule. Are some of these coming down because the people that are paying, they have no other recourse? They, like we hear here, they can't use the system, and they went into 30 days or 60 days, and now they actually have to pay because they do have the money.
Well, I mean, that's why they don't get, the aging doesn't get any worse than it does. Eventually, we wind up collecting the majority of that money. I think what I was getting at is that we had higher sales in a month, but if you look at the current accounts receivable, it's actually less than it was last month's. So we had a good month as far as collecting on time payments.
Yeah, you have 12,755 people paid their bills, I guess, or there were 12,700, the customers' payments. And how many discrepancies do you have in that? Is there a number of people that come and they claim their bill is wrong, or?
Well, we field questions all the time about, the accuracy of the meter reading, the accuracy of the billing. We didn't use that much power. Is that what you're asking, or?
Well, a lot of, I think when you process 12,755 bills, there's probably something went wrong somewhere. People, that's a lot of processing for a.
Sure, and we're not infallible. I mean, there's a mistake made here and there. Sure.
Okay. And, there's 1,100 phone calls.
Yes.
I don't think I ever called here except when my power went out. And now I have Todd's number, so I can call him.
That doesn't count those calls typically, because those go to our service line. These are just calls coming into the office.
Okay. And why would somebody have to call you?
Didn't get their bill, they're calling about a potential disconnect or to dispute something, or just some information, or they call to change service. I'm moving out of such and such an address.
Is a lot of this like with disconnections or?
A good portion of it is, yeah.
Okay. And I see you did 213 electric moves and 116 water moves, I imagine.
Those are probably, every one of those are a phone call, so.
Okay.
If not 2 or 3 as we follow up on it.
Yeah. Thanks.
Sure.
Other questions or comments? Director of Finance report. If I have a question, I'm just curious what year-end adjustments might be.
In the water side, for example, we'll keep track of when they're doing hydrant flushes. We'll keep it kind of in a holding account, and at the end of the year, we'll do those adjustments.
Okay.
Our financial statements are more interim financial statements, so there might not be true splits between water and electric, so we'll make those at the end of the year. A lot of our pensions and benefits and stuff kind of hit more electric than both electric and water properly, so those kind of adjustments, and more just capitalizing assets.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments?
I got one comment.
Okay.
After going through this, when the devil do you sleep?
At night usually. So.
It's quite a bit when you read it. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments? Information system report. Since the mayor is here, I just have a question for you. Do you think this new system is working well?
I think so. There's more accountability. He's able to manage his workflow, and I don't get complaints. People's issues are not being resolved. So to me, that's an indicator, a positive indicator. It's something is happening. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Status of the GIS mapping, Matt?
The GIS mapping, they just got with me. They're going to start doing the short pieces of transmission between the substations, which is basically the last portion of the project. So they're going to break one of the 2 guys free to finish that up real quick, and then they'll head back to Beer, in which they found is a lot more work than they had planned on. So.
Okay, good. Aaron would finish that up then?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Mike?
I just wanted to comment on that 1,100 phone calls too with Tom Nowak's questions. If that breaks down to 7 per hour, I'm taking about 10 to 15 per hour, during my work day myself. Just to give you an idea, I don't know if that's just one person taking 1,100 or the staff here. In my business, that's not a lot of calls, but I don't know what you were, if you thought that was a lot with people with their disconnects, but.
Yeah, I just wonder what people, I just don't. I have no need to call the utility. I pay my bill.
Sure.
Yeah, I just the electricity flows through the lines, and so does the water through the pipes, and I just have very few needs. And you wonder 1,100 calls. I just wonder what could be possible.
1,000 of them from me to Joel. Okay.
And I wasn't trying to put you on the spot, Joel, either. I just wonder what's
right.
I guess it's our job to find out you know, what goes on when we're not around.
Again, those are incoming, don't count the outgoing calls that we,
Yeah.
that staff places, which
Okay.
would definitely outnumber the incoming.
Yeah.
That letter that's circulating that we were talking earlier, that might cause some phone calls too, huh?
It might.
Any other questions or comments? Conservation Managers Report. Kurt isn't here, but maybe someone on staff can help out. Go ahead, Mike.
That warehouse in Wisconsin, is that no longer just a warehouse? Is there, due to a change in their usage?
Do you know anything about that, Todd?
No, I don't know if they added on or anything like that, but Kurt does a nice job where he looks at these customers, and if he can get them a better rate, he talks to them. So I think that's what he's pointing out.
Okay.
Would that be like time of day or something, or?
I don't think so. I think it's usually a rate class for what you're paying, and so
Okay.
if they get into a larger usage, that bumps them into a different paying rate. And so he contacts them and talks to them about it.
Mayor?
Something could be related. They've had some changes in terms of tenants there. They've moved into some more food processing manufacturers that have stored whey protein and some others instead of like pulp and paper products. So that may have changed some of their energy consumption, just based on a recent tour that I did when I was there. May not be related.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Engineering Supervisor Report.
Have you been going through any of the movements with your, on the caustic tank here and?
You're asking like how is it going now that we're switching to it? It's been working very well for us. We've had a couple leaks, but we've you know, got the alarms that tell them that and they go down. But I think everybody's been very happy with it. Dale and Chad can both probably talk in on that too if they'd like. But I think everybody's happy to have the lime silo going.
Yeah, it's been working really well.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? General Managers Report.
The only thing I have on Great Lakes Utilities, part of Jim's report, it says GLU formally agreed to participate in the MISO ROE complaint brought by industrial customer to receive their power from the MISO grid. Do you have any idea what that's about?
I don't. So I can contact him when he comes back tomorrow and we can let you know.
Any other questions or comments?
I don't believe there's any correspondence.
Okay. No? Accounts payable? I'm assuming this is for Todd's department, but on page 2, right towards the bottom, it's the West Coast electric line tool. I'm just curious what that's for.
That is a tool that we bought that we've actually used twice since we purchased it. If you have, say, underground cable coming to your house and you've got 2 hots and a neutral, if you lose one of those 3 conductors, This tool allows you to actually plug it into where the meter socket is, and it'll actually make up that one phase that's missing. And so Paul's actually been so happy with it that he's asked that we see if we can purchase a second one, because it gives then the line crew time to organize, call in locates, and then eventually fix the problem. But now the customer is not without power while they're making all those repairs.
Okay, very good. With the tree trimming, are there actually 2 crews out?
No,
Just the one?
we've only had one crew now for probably 3 to 4 years.
So they just invoice weekly then?
We get weekly invoices for them.
Weekly invoices, okay. Any other comments or questions?
My only comment is how times have changed and looking at winter clothing. The only thing that I ever remember getting from the power company when I was working down there is the liners for the rubber gloves. I guess it's all right, I'm not complaining, it's just I'm kind of glad to see things are different.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Other business? Anyone on staff? Okay. And is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion been made by Tom, seconded by Joel. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.